When Nintendo created Mario Kart, it spawned an entire kart racing genre that everyone wants to capitalize on. If you've got an intellectual property with even the slightest popularity, making a Mario Kart clone feels inevitable. I've played dozens of hours of these things at this point, and yet still there are kart racers that I haven't experienced. There are just so many of them. Iconic mascots of beloved franchises like Emoji Kart Racer takes everyone's favorite little text message faces and makes them tear up the streets in an action-packed racer. Because when I'm text messaging my many friends, I know I wish that my keyboard could drive a car. Forget everything I've ever said. Please subscribe. Okay, maybe not everything, but this is genuinely the worst kart racer I have ever played. Nearly every kart racer at least tries with their game. They may not always succeed, but you can tell that there was some creativity there, and the game's being a mess can be attributed to time crunch or lack of resources or just plain inexperience. But this is the first game that I think truly didn't give a single shit about what they made. They farted it out, threw it on storefronts, and called it a day. And I just don't know where to start. It takes like a full second between you hitting a direction on the joystick and when your kart actually begins turning, which is crazy. There doesn't seem to be any kind of drifting either. You just have exactly one turn that you get to use the entire time. And the physics of the game are so nonsensical. There are a ton of obstacles and hazards on the tracks, and if you hit one of them, chances are you come to a screeching halt and will get hit at least one or two more times by the exact same thing, because you just aren't able to get out of the way in time. Nothing makes it more obvious to me that the devs knew this game kinda controlled like ass than the fact that they implemented a reset button. Press it at any time and you warp to a nearby safe part of the track. That alone signals that this was a quick and dirty job with very little care. I mean, I truly just had so many insane moments playing this game. It felt like every race had something unbelievably dumb happen, like you couldn't make this up. And when you win a race, you love to hear that victory fanfare. But from one yellow circle to another, we moved to Pac-Man. Pac-Man was experiencing a sort of renaissance back in the 2000s, particularly with the Pac-Man World series, so a kart racer was the natural next step, with Pac-Man World Rally. And this one is honestly pretty good. It has some really fun ideas. When performing a drift, a meter at the bottom of the screen charges up. When you max it out, you gain a Guardian, and these can be activated to protect you from attacks for a short while. Drifting itself is pretty slippery, and while that sucks from a control perspective, I think it balances fairly well with the Guardian system, so that you aren't always perfectly bobbing and weaving and protecting yourself from items at all times. You can also drive over fruit on the tracks, and this fruit can be spent at matching checkpoints to open up shortcuts. And I mean shortcuts. These things skip so much of the track sometimes. You're at a severe disadvantage if you miss them. It's refreshing to see a shortcut actually be a shortcut. But perhaps the biggest unique mechanic the game has is the Pac-Mobile. While racing, you can collect Pac dots along the track. This charges up a second meter on screen, and when this one is full, you can activate it to become the Pac-Mobile and gain an increase in speed. Every other racer will also transform, turning into little blue ghosts on unicycles, and if you make contact, you can eat them. This is a really clever way of taking Pac-Man's main shtick from the arcade game and putting it into the kart racing genre. I really like it. Pac-Man World Rally is sort of a product of its time, but man, it was such a joy to play a kart racer that wanted to be unique and also celebrate their little slice of the gaming world, even down to the character options. You've got your Pac-Man good guys and bad guys, of course, and then you've got fun little nods to other Namco titles as well. This game actually saw a PSP entry, and to some, it's the definitive version of the game, at least in terms of content. It comes with exclusive characters, an additional track, 2 battle arenas, and an exclusive challenge mode. The only problem is you have to play it on the PSP. Honestly, this is a game I'd love to see get the repack treatment, like with the Pac-Man World games. Update the visuals, tweak the controls, maybe some bonus content, and I could see people really enjoying this game in the modern day. Namco also released a second Pac-Man racer in 2010, Pac-Man Kart Rally, though this one was, say it with me, a mobile game. 2 versions of this game were created. The first version was a mobile game. The first version was a 2D Java game, designed for some of the less powerful phones on the market. The second was for smartphones, a full 3D version of the game. This wasn't that uncommon at the time. The general public was just starting to transition to smartphones, so they still wanted something for those with the screen that slid up. The 2D version is as good as any cell phone kart racer with 240 pixels of screen real estate can be, but there are some quality details here. The sprite work is top-notch, and in tandem with smooth animations and controls, the presentation for this one is really nice, even if the gameplay is only so-so. The 3D version is frankly worse in the visuals department, and the gameplay is equally as average. The controls are unbelievably slippery. You sometimes turn so aggressively the camera can't even keep track of you. Considering this was the early days of more advanced gaming on smartphones, honestly, it's a good enough attempt, but it's absolutely not something you want to try to play today. So when I tried to play it today, I saw that it was also available on Amazon Fire TV, despite being delisted from the mobile storefronts. So I picked up a Fire Stick, just to learn that it's also delisted on there and the internet lied to me. So to play it, I had to use... And if the iPhone/Android/Amazon Fire Stick wasn't enough, they also made a 3D version for Java phones too. That's right, a secret third version. Honestly, this is more impressive than the more advanced version for the smartphones. Like, I'm genuinely so impressed that this was running on anything that had the Nokia name on it, much less running smoothly. It's about the same as the 2D version as far as gameplay goes, but it is technically very impressive. I feel I should mention the Mario Kart arcade games here. Mario Kart Arcade GP, GP2, GP Deluxe, and GP VR. But I'm not going to dive into the details of those for two reasons. For one, they're not really Pac-Man racers. While it does feature Namco elements and characters in nearly all of them, because Bandai Namco developed them, it's very firmly a Mario Kart game. But for another reason, I already talked about all of them in their own dedicated video. And you know what? Let's just keep rolling with the yellow guys. LEGO has a surprising number of racing games under their belt, starting all the way back in the 90s. During that time, they were looking at how to expand their brand outside of just the bricks, and one of the obvious avenues was video games. One of their first big ventures was LEGO Island, an adventure game that takes place on a big island. The size of the game made vehicles a no-brainer, which then invited vehicle races to the game. While the racing portions weren't exactly stellar, the groundwork and ideas were already there for a LEGO racing game, which was inevitably made in LEGO Racers. While a pretty obvious Mario Kart clone, the identity of this game lives in the vehicle builder, where you can use the LEGO pieces to craft your very own vehicle. Like many of the LEGO games of the time, this one is pretty rough. The controls aren't very good, and the courses are difficult to navigate on top of that. At one point during a race, I spun out and it didn't reorient me forward. It just decided, you're facing this way now. And that basically dooms you in a race, because these AI are cheaters. Getting second place, third place, no problem. But to win first place, I have to literally change my DNA to become a LEGO piece in order to be that good. It's just not fair. Each color item brick corresponds to a different type of item, like speed, offensive, or defensive. If you continue to run through the same color, you'll upgrade to a better item, and then another better item. But this is really hard to do, so you'll typically end up using the level 1 or 2 items most of the time. The downside is that the low-level offensive items kinda suck, so it's really difficult to get to higher places using them. Also, why does this pirate know my name? LEGO's next attempt was a PC game in 2000, LEGO Stunt Rally. Being a game designed for Windows 98, I wasn't able to get this one running on my current system, but I do think I was able to get a couple of viruses. In both the PC and Game Boy Color games, you don't actually control the car. Steering is automatic, and you can control cornering and your speed, but really, that's about it. I figured I'd mention it because it's a racing game, but it's absolutely nothing like Mario Kart. In 2001, they gave it another go with LEGO Racers 2 on the PlayStation 2, and with more advanced hardware, they could do much more. For starters, this one has a whole adventure mode, complete with a character creator, explorable world, and group bullying in the very first cutscene. This game ends up being sort of the inverse of LEGO Island. While that was an open world game with racing elements, LEGO Racers 2 is a racing game with open world elements. Each world has a series of races you can complete in order to move on to the next world, and ultimately you want to save the universe from race cars or something. I made my character a car where he technically can't see, but that made it fairly difficult for me in real life to see too, and I couldn't figure out how to fix it. Once again, this one is a little bit tough in the controls department. Your vehicle is already very slippery, and certain terrain makes it much worse, and not always in a manageable way. Again, at certain points the game just decided I was driving in a completely different direction. Well, maybe third time's the charm. Drome Racers released in 2003, again for the PS2, but this time for GameCube as well. So now even more people can experience a pretty mediocre racing game. Drome Racers departs even more from the silly kart racing genre, and it feels like they just wanted to make a straight-up racing simulator game, but with items. And in doing so, you just end up with this lukewarm kind of game. It loses all the fun and whimsy of a kart racer, but it's also not worth your time as a racing sim. It tried to be both, but succeeded at neither. This game is wild to start out with. I figured out the controls eventually, but starting my first couple races, I was struggling. I felt like I was just flailing all over the place with no explanation. But playing this game, I just had one question. What the hell does this have to do with LEGO? Each of these games also had corresponding handheld ports. LEGO Racers for Game Boy Color is about the best you can do on an 8-bit handheld. The illusion of 3D, a basic left and right simulator, you kinda know what you're getting into. But damn do these races take forever. My family just put me in a home, that's how long this race took. LEGO Racers 2 for Game Boy Advance is fine. I mean, it's definitely a step up from the Game Boy Color game, and it features an adventure mode, but that's really all it has going for it. Drome Racers on GBA is also just fine. While it's not much of a looker, it's very impressive that this game is actually running in 3D. They're single color 3D shapes, but it's impressive what they got to run on the Game Boy Advance. But outside of these handheld ports, LEGO also released a Java mobile game, because of course they did. And this one actually kinda surprised me. Where other Java racing games are just left-right simulators, this one is done from an overhead perspective, kinda like Stunt Rally. But the controls are actually really fluid, especially for an old phone game. You can upgrade your car, there's a decent enough track variety. They did alright with this one. I don't think I'd hate having it on my phone. And then there's... none of these words are in the dictionary. This was a mobile and web game that isn't really a kart racer. You do Star Wars pod racing on variations of the exact same track, hitting targets along the way that give you more boost charges. It's really nothing too complicated, but I have to admit, if I was a 10-year-old when this was a thing, I would have played it for hours. But finally, in 2023, we got a modern kart racer from LEGO, LEGO 2K Drive. That's a lot of drives. In the 20 years since their last racing game, LEGO really found its modern identity. Not just with the licensed games like LEGO Star Wars, but with their original projects like the LEGO Movie. You kinda know the tone, humor, and amount of gameplay that you're gonna get with a LEGO game at this point. So of all the LEGO racing games, this one actually feels the most LEGO. They also just figured out how to make good video games too. 2K Drive is once again an open world racing game, taking place in Bricklandia. You travel around the open world completing quests. During actual races, your vehicle can transform based on 3 categories: street, off-road, and water, and it transforms mid-race depending on the terrain you're currently on. But I feel like the whole on-the-fly building thing has really been cemented in LEGO games. It's not like the vehicle transformation necessarily needs an explanation, but it's definitely a plus that the swapping vehicles thing just kind of fits well with LEGO. The driving system is pretty weird though. Your boost meter can be filled up by 2 things. The first is just basic drifting, which makes sense. But the second is by destroying objects in your path. So the game is actively incentivizing you to go off-road and destroy things. But there were 2 big problems I noticed with this. Sometimes the sections are very confusing. You aren't fully sure what's off-road versus the actual track. And sometimes the actual track is off-road and you aren't fully clear on it. It can genuinely be very disorienting. The other part is that because everyone is constantly smashing into things, there are LEGO bricks flying everywhere. It genuinely gets so chaotic. It's major sensory overload. I felt like I was dissociating and just following the pretty arrows and hoping for the best. Also, my PC fans kicked up to 100% immediately when I booted up. Overall, this game is absolutely LEGO's best racing game. But naturally, it's a game made in the modern era, so there are a ton of microtransactions. But if you love spending money on digital LEGO bricks, then this game is for you. Another series that surprisingly has a kart racer is none other than Dragon Ball. And of course, it was only in Japan. iMode was a Japanese mobile internet service that offered all kinds of features for your phone, including games. There are a ton of these things, including quite a few Dragon Ball games, and one of these was Dragon Ball Racing. It's a pretty standard mobile phone racing game with some rather impressive 3D tracks combined with sprite-based racers. Is that Vegeta on a motorcycle? But for a while there, this game was inaccessible unless you were in Japan in 2009 using one of these compatible phones. And even then, the iMode service is in the process of being shut down, which means we would lose this game forever. That is, until some wonderful game preservationists began work getting as many of these iMode games archived as they could. The Keitai Archive has built a launcher that allows you to search through their database of backed up games and play them for yourself. And luckily, Dragon Ball Racing is on here. Kinda. The full release isn't actually archived yet. We only have the trial version. This lets you race on 2 variations of a single track, and you can only play as Goku, racing against Vegeta, Piccolo, and Bulma. But it's still really cool to be able to play this game even in this nerfed form. It honestly makes me wonder, with all of the different games that have been made using Dragon Ball, it's kind of odd that this is the only kart racing game in its entire history. Maybe someday we'll be able to play as Krillin. Yet another surprising franchise with a kart racer is Mega Man, with the release of Mega Man Battle and Chase. This was originally only available in Japan and Europe, though North America later got it as part of the Mega Man X collection. And I gotta say, this is another kart racer that takes elements from the original series and applies them in very cool ways to the racing gameplay. Instead of item boxes, each character has an item unique to them, like Mega Man's Mega Buster. This weapon has a weaker attack that you can use frequently, or you can allow the gauge at the top to fill up and then use a stronger move. On top of that, enemies are all over each track. After running over or attacking 10 of these, you get an item that impacts other racers, like disabling their weapons or turning the enemies into mines. On top of that, in the game's Grand Prix mode, defeating characters in a race allows you to unlock their car parts and customize your vehicle. Both of these are such cool ways to take the mechanics of Mega Man, unique weapons for each boss, and gaining those weapons when you beat them, and mixing them into a kart racing game. As far as the actual gameplay goes, it's pretty average. Honestly, the biggest downsides are the frame rate and that a third of your screen is taken up by a rear view camera and the map. It's also got that crunchy PlayStation 1 look to it, but I have kind of a soft spot for that, so I don't really consider that a downside. And hey, you can visit iconic Mega Man locales such as Street. Apparently, a North American version was made, but got axed by Sony because of an oversaturation of mascot kart racers already on the market, which, yeah, that makes sense. And of course, there's also a Rayman kart, because why not? This is yet another Java phone game. Frankly, it doesn't do anything spectacular. It's basically like any other Java kart racer. It's got a variety of Rayman characters from the Rabbids era, but honestly, what does this one have that others don't? Nothing really makes it stand out aside from having a Rayman skin. Mega Fist! Okay, never mind. Am I finally free of this madness? Can I finally play a game that isn't a Mario Kart clone? A huge thank you to all of my patrons for directly supporting this content. Head on over to patreon.com/Aaronitmar for early access and behind the scenes content.